right, we will call the, I don't even know what day it is, the January 26, 2023 meeting of the Parker Planning Commission to order at 7 p.m. Will you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call. Absent is Ruth Ann. Absent is Eric. Absent is Roxy. Absent is Nick. Absent is Ira. Seated are Rich, Jane, Eliana, Kim, and myself. So we have a quorum. Are there any additions to or deletions from the agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. We don't have any to? Okay. All right. So then we'll move on, we'll get the minutes next time, to public hearings. 7A, which is Meridian Tract Q, open space zoning. And we will open the public hearing at 7:01. Bryce?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. As noted before you tonight is a proposed zoning for Meridian Tract Q to open space. The town purchased the Meridian Tract Q on April 6, 2022 to preserve it as open space and to construct a missing section of the Newland Gulch. Concurrently with an annexation, as required by the town charter, this property is required to be zoned at that same time of the annexation. The town is proposing to zone the 20.25 acre property to open space. The Open Space Trails and Greenways Master Plan is an element of the Parker 2035 Master Plan. The Open Space Trails and Greenways Master Plan sets forth values for properties to acquire and preserve. The plan acknowledges that no one property will have all of the potential qualities that make a property valuable as open space. This property has many of the properties from the plan. The property is adjacent to other reserved open space properties. The property is a drainage and gulch with some large cottonwoods in it. The property is visible from a public road and also is a buffer between Meridian Development in the county and Town of Parker Development. The property is the location of an important missing trail connection, as noted before, as part of the Newland Gulch Regional Trail, which when complete will connect Cherry Creek Trail to the Reuter Hess Reservoir. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning. These criteria ensure that a need exists. The proposed zoning is consistent with the master plan. Adequate circulation exists, and it will not be a detriment to the town. After evaluating the information provided by the applicant, being the town, for the zoning, staff has determined that the proposed zoning to open space meets the 9 approval criteria set forth in the Land Development Ordinance. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan and that all notice requirements have been met. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Meridian Tract Q zoning to open space. This concludes staff's report. Brett Collins with the Parks and Recreation Department is also in the audience here today to answer questions. But as always, I'm available for questions as well. Thank you.
Questions for Bryce?
None from me.
Questions for Brett?
Nope.
Okay. As this is a public hearing, we always open it to the public for their comment on this particular matter before us. If you have a comment on this item, please step forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Further questions, Commissioners? No? We will close the public hearing at 7:05. Commissioner discussion?
Upon my initial review, I thought this is, for me, a no-brainer. Commend the town of Parker for doing it and continuing that project that was spoken about many months ago and many years ago. So I'm definitely in favor of it.
Yeah, I'm good with the proposed zoning change.
I will agree and say it's almost not even a real zoning change, it's just being incorporated into the town of Parker, sort of as it was within a different jurisdiction before it came in. So I'm excited to see it come to fruition.
I have no further comments. I think it seems pretty straightforward.
And I concur with my fellow commissioners. Do we have a motion?
I move the planning commission recommend town council approve the zoning.
Second?
Been moved by Rich, seconded by Kim, that planning commission recommend town council approves the zoning. And I will call the question. Kim?
Aye.
Ileana?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Chair is aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item B, West Creek Development Plan Development Second Amendment. We will open the public hearing at 7:07, and we will turn it over to you, Julia. Welcome back, Julia.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for having me this evening. Before you is the West Creek Development Plan Development Second Amendment. The site is located southwest of Parker Road and E470. The applicant, Masterworks LLC, is proposing a rezoning to amend the West Creek PD to allow drive-through uses and cleaning up language and criteria. Some background for you, the original plan development was adopted in 2005, and then what it did is it merged differently zoned parcels into one unified PD. It created a mixed-use commercial, office, and multifamily residential area. Areas west of 20 Mile are developed with multifamily residential apartments and condominiums. Big Five sporting goods store, 7-Eleven, a gas station, convenience store, and a bank with drive-through lanes were approved between 2007 and 2009. All three site plans were ultimately constructed. The First Amendment was adopted in 2016 and updated a number of provisions within the PD, including development standards and uses. The current request is to modify certain planning areas within the PD, including development standards, land use area boundaries, and designations and uses. There are a number of conflicting development standards within the PD, including, but not limited to, setbacks, height, and building separation. These conflicting standards lead to confusion amongst the development community, as well as implementation on behalf of the department. In addition, a declaration of restrictions on the area designated as MOB, medical office building and retail, prohibits medical office, which is in conflict with the current designated zoning. The proposed revisions. So the previous R retail land use areas to be relabeled to C commercial in accordance with the town of Parker's zoning districts in the updated land development ordinance. The undeveloped MOB land use area will be redesignated as commercial. The boundaries of the MURC, I'm sorry, am I on the right sheet? Yeah. The proposed revision, sorry about that. The boundaries of the MURC land use area would be revised to reflect the 3.45 acre parcel on which the Spring Hills Suites was developed.
The remnant 1.24 acre MUR/C parcel would be redesignated as commercial. The new C commercial areas within the PD would be further delineated into two planning areas. Planning Area 1, which is PA1, and Planning Area 2, PA2, which would have additional limits on specific uses
in each area. Development standards have been revised for clarity and consistency within the document and to better align with the proposed updates in the land development ordinance. The West Creek PD is one of the last infill sites on Parker Road between Main Street and E470. In accordance with the town's vision as identified in the master plan, the West Creek Development Plan is divided into two distinct land use planning areas, physically divided by the north-south axis right-of-way created by 20 Mile Road. Development parcels located west of 20 Mile Road are designated as multifamily residential areas, characterized as high-density land uses located adjacent to regional and locally significant commercial areas, and that's the portion next to the open space that you see MFR. It's on the left side of the map, and it's not highlighted. Nothing in that area is proposed to change. Development parcels located east of 20 Mile Road are characterized as mixed-use residential, commercial, and commercial areas, and are reserved for land uses consisting of more intense retail, restaurant uses, service-related businesses, offices, and entertainment uses. The proposed revisions correct a number of conflicts within the PD, providing clarity. Correcting these conflicts also improves implementation on the part of the department. Setbacks have been aligned in accordance with the comparable zones and updates to the LDO. The land use names have also been aligned to reflect the zoning districts within the LDO. The MOB/R use has been removed due to an underlying private covenant, the declaration of restrictions on the site, which prohibited medical office, which is in direct conflict with the current zoning. The retail zoning has been redesignated as commercial, and uses have been revised to more adequately reflect market demands. So specifically, PA2, which is adjacent to 20 Mile Road and Pine Lane, would prohibit drive-through restaurant establishments to encourage higher-end retail and commercial uses that are neighborhood serving to the adjacent multifamily community. Planning Area 1, which is along Parker Road, would allow a maximum of 2 drive-through restaurant uses, which will serve commuters from Parker Road and E470. And that's the PA1 and PA2 are highlighted in teal and pink on that screen. The West Creek PD is located to the southwest of Parker Road and E470 and spans 2 land use designations within our master plan, the mixed-use residential emphasis and regional commercial retail character areas. The mixed-use residential character area is intended for higher density residential in close proximity to commercial. The proposed amendment to the PD is consistent with the master plan. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning. These criteria ensure that a need exists, the proposal is consistent with the master plan, and there are adequate services to serve the proposed site. After evaluating the zoning information, staff has determined that the proposal meets the 9 approval criteria set forth in the land development ordinance as set forth in the staff report. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan. Utility providers have confirmed capacity and availability, and all notice requirements have been satisfied. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the West Creek Plan Development Second Amendment. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you may have. And the applicant is also here if you'd like. They'd like to probably introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about the project, as well as answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Julia. Questions for Julia?
I'm good for now.
Did you receive any comments on any of this?
I received a number of letters from the adjacent business owners within the PD, Spring Hill Suites, the dental clinic, Big 5 Sports, all supportive of the proposed changes.
Okay, and none of this will affect the existing, obviously, businesses there, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, thank you.
And the applicants want to step forward? Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Jody Newton with Masterworks LLC, and I also have Travis McNeil, who is the owner of the Next Gen West Creek Properties. I've been involved with this project for quite some time, and it's had kind of a troubled life. The original developer ran into some issues on that last financial downturn in like 2010, 11 in there. And so it was foreclosed on, and I worked with the bank to clean up some issues there. So anyway, Travis McNeil stepped up and purchased the property, and we've been working really hard since then to kind of get this back in line. And the zoning and the original vision is basically almost 20 years old now. So obviously things have changed, but when Travis acquired it, it was basically vacant property with the exception of the Big Five Sports and the 7-Eleven and the dental office. So anyway, so we've been working really hard to figure out how we can get this built out. We recognize that it's right at Parker's doorsteps, and Travis is, his ultimate goal is to get this built out. So we did bring in all the multifamily, the apartments and condos, and I also brought in the hotel. So all of those existing tenants that came into that have always wanted some sort of a more, to see that retail built out, but they really wanted some sort of food service in that area because obviously it makes sense, right? You can live in apartments and walk over there and have something to eat. So anyway, so it was just time to kind of clean up, as Julia has done a really great job explaining, and Bryce has been very instrumental in this. And we really tried to work with staff from the beginning to kind of figure out a win-win situation. And we knew, the code had got updated at Parker, and this was just sort of outdated. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone, is cleaning up that PD document so we can actually, and then bring in, allow those two drive-through options maximum just on Parker Road, which will allow Mitch Trevey, who's been marketing this property, to be able to, take this to the finish line. So we understand that the retail just sitting out there vacant has been a real challenge, and by doing this amendment to the PD and guide and plan, I think it'll make a difference and help get that built out. So if anyone has any questions, I'll have Travis here too if you want to talk to him as well. So
I do have questions, actually. I'm not sure who can answer these questions, but as that is sort of, like is stated in the staff report, the gateway to Parker Road, I'm wondering how we differentiate Parker from any other community when we potentially have drive-throughs along Parker Road. That doesn't seem very, it seems like there are other places within Parker for drive-throughs, and I'm not sure that this is the best place for that. Can you address that question or concern?
Well, we've been actively out marketing for numerous years to get this property completed, and the retail pieces are the last to go. So it's obviously got great access to Parker Road, but we do have some challenges here because Silverado is only a right-in, right-out. So that kind of limits what we can do there. And we've had many, people approach and talk to Travis and Mitch about possibly, bringing in a nice land use that mixes with the others, and the other existing developments would support, and we've really been challenged, particularly along Parker Road. So the code has changed, and the design centers have changed here most recently at Parker Road, and we felt comfortable knowing that I understand the perspective that we don't like drive-throughs up and down Parker Road, but this was one component. If we could at least get one of those in here, then the rest of it will fill up. And the unique thing is that all those existing developments in there are a support of it, because it will be a nice symbiotic use with the apartments, condos, and the hotel. And the hotel does not have food service in it. So we tried our best for probably 6-7 years to try and see if we could make that work, and has just been unsuccessful. And obviously we had wanted to take advantage of this. The market has been pretty hot in Colorado, and especially Parker is a very desirable development area, and so we didn't want to go through another slump that we experienced in 2010 to 12 where it was just dismal. So we just thought, if we can bring one in and have that ability to do that, then we could fill it all out and get it built out. And so we initially had the idea and met with Bryce and Julia. I don't know if you were there at the time, but we talked about this very thoroughly to figure out what can we do here. And I know the Eisenberg property just to the south has had the ability to have drive-throughs too, so it's kind of, it's a competitive world out there. So we figure if we could have at least one or two of them on Parker Road, that it'll help us build the rest of it out. It'll help those businesses that are already there and the housing developments to be successful. So the hotel especially has some really challenges because they opened, a month before COVID. So they've had a hard time. So they see that. So anyway, we tried to make a best decision for the big picture perspective, and we worked very closely with your staff to it wasn't like we just kind of force-fed it in. We came in and talked to them and tried to strategically figure out what we could do, and then also clean up the PD, which was outdated and, even in nomenclature, but just some things that we need to do some housekeeping on. So that was kind of the best approach, and we'd love to have your support for this, but I think it'll make a difference and get your front doorstep built out and looking great. And we abide by all the design standards, and we'll make sure that every, potential buyer or tenant that comes in there meets all those standards to the certain degree. So I think I'm pretty confident that, it'll develop out as something very attractive and look dynamic, and be a nice thing to have finished out on Parker Road. So did that help, or?
Can I get an executive summary of how that drive-through builds the traffic that you need to sell the rest of the parcels? How the drive-through drives?
How does the drive-through help you sell the rest of the parcels in that PUD?
Well, if you bring in a retail use, everyone, those are people out there looking for sites, right? And national tenants, and just like, say, a In-N-Out Burger or something like that, they locate, everybody else is coming along. Not necessarily the same type of use, but other compatible uses, and we always thought, well, this would be a great place to have some, neighborhood services, and, that can, contribute to what's already existing on the overall development as well as the town. And so we feel that if you get, you get that first starter point in there, the other business will come. And we don't need to line it all up with, every fast food thing you would need, but we want to be very strategic about who we allow to have that ability to do that, so that it will bring in other compatible, other end users on there, or maybe doctor's offices. We've been unsuccessful on the MOB part of it because all the hospital uses are across the street, right? And so we worked really hard, and Travis really went down the road with trying to get medical office use in there, and we still allow that, but we didn't have parcels that were specific for medical office building. But if we're there's other type of developments that kind of wait till things are pretty well built out and then they grab a site. So we're thinking if we were able to get a fast food, like a higher standard that had the ability to have a drive-through, because those were very important during COVID, right? And those are the businesses that were successful and didn't have to close down. So, we never know if that will happen again, but we thought that if we had something like that, then other businesses will follow. And you just, watch the retail trend, and we've been working very close with Mitch Trevey, and he's Mr. Parker, right? So he knows who's out there, and he's kind of came to us and said, my hands are tied here. I can't, everyone that comes that wants to build here, they had so many restrictions in the original PD that it was almost like killed the deal. So we really tried our best to see if we could make it work, but it just became obvious after a while that we need to do some little strategic moves to get this built out. And the last time when I amended it for the hotel, we just kind of subdivided a parcel and moved around the MOB, but I heard from Planning Commission and Town Council, we want this built out. Let's get this built out. So
if I can reiterate what I heard you say, is that you need a national, recognized tenant to complete the build out of the rest of that property.
yes, it's definitely very helpful, yeah. Sorry for that long explanation. You said it much better than me.
Thank you, I appreciate your honesty, it's very much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions?
No.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Virginia?
No.
All right, as it is a public hearing, we will open it to public comment. If you have a comment on this item before us, please step forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we will close the public comment. No additional questions?
I don't have any questions. I'd like to make a comment, if I can.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, I like the idea that you're killing two birds with one stone with updating something that needed to be updated. And for as long as I've been sitting back here, which is now going on 9 years, we've always wondered what's going to happen. So I'm personally and for Parker happy to see that something is moving in the right direction. So I commend it and I'm in favor of it.
Well, let's go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:25 and open it up to commissioner discussion. Anybody else? Discussion?
I want to appreciate the work that the town of Parker and the property owner has gone to make sure that this works for Parker as well as for them. I personally think it's a great idea for some of the cleanup stuff, the MOB, all of that stuff. On a personal level, I don't think that the error part applies to the drive-through, and so for that reason, I will be voting against this particular amendment.
I appreciate all the work that's gone in for it, and I mean, I've driven by this parcel for, over 20 years now, so it would be nice if that was built out, and with all the hotel and the residential housing, anytime you have that kind of, that density of people, they're going to walk to the 7-Eleven, they're going to walk to the store, and it's right off of 470 and Parker Road, so I think it's a great spot for Parker to build some revenue with the signs that may say, we've got X number of food here, just take a right. And so I think it's a great thing that has been sitting vacant too long, and it kind of looks a little, I'll say it, a little trashy. So I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to seeing what you all can do with it.
I'm glad to see these revisions to help encourage the development of these remaining parcels, and I think what will ever go in there will help complement what's already been developed in those areas, so I'll be voting for it.
I am certainly in support of this item before it. I too have driven by that particular parcel, and it'll be nice to see some things get going there, so I'm in support of it as well. Do we have a motion?
I move Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the zoning.
I'll second.
Moved by Liliana, seconded by Rich, that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the zoning. Kim?
Aye.
Liliana?
Aye.
Jane?
Nay.
Rich?
Aye.
Chair is aye. It's approved 4-1. Thank you. Next item, 7C, Parker and Pine Mixed-Use Development Plan Development Guide, First Amendment. We will open the public hearing at 7:28. Julia, we're all yours again.
Good evening, Commissioners. We are sticking around in the same general vicinity. What's before you this evening is the Parker and Pine Mixed-Use Development Plan Development First Amendment. So the site is located at the southwest corner of Parker Road and Pine Lane. The applicant is proposing an amendment to the Parker and Pine PD to reduce the required retail and relocate an allowed drive-through use to the southwest corner of Parker Road and Pine Lane. The property consists of approximately 16 acres and was previously actually located in the Parker Auto Plaza PD, which is south of this location, and has come before you several times in the past year with different amendments. But in the previous PD, auto-related uses would have been allowed on the site, including heavy uses, which was subsequently amended in that PD. A rezoning application was approved in 2020 to create a new Parker and Pine mixed-use PD. It updated the list of permitted commercial uses. It allowed for multifamily residential use on a portion of the site, which I'm sure you've all seen under development right now. It established design standards, and since the adoption of the PD, numerous parcels have been developed, including a daycare, which is also under construction, the multifamily residential, Slim Chickens on Parker Road, and a gas station. The proposed request and revisions to the PD would include the elimination of the provision that precludes drive-throughs within a 300-foot radius of Parker Road and Pine Lane. It would eliminate the current requirement that a development on Lot 5 either be 17,000 square feet if multi-tenant or 12,000 square feet if a single tenant. It would add a requirement for a minimum building square footage on Lot 5 in the commercial area of 10,000 square feet. So basically, it would go from 17,000 to 10,000 square feet. The community development director would be allowed to reduce the building square footage on that lot to 8,000 square feet if certain criteria were met, which would include 2 1,000 square foot outdoor patio spaces in addition to that 8,000 square foot building, if the development was entirely retail, or if the development was a multi-tenant building. It would amend the PD design standards to add stucco and stone as a permitted material, and bone china and sandcastle to the allowed color palette. What's unique about this PD is it does have its own design standards that incorporate very specific materials, and those design standards are in addition to our town-wide design standards. The zoning limitations for the commercial area 1 would be revised to more adequately reflect market demands while adhering to the intent of the land use designation of the master plan. I do want to mention that this is the only opportunity for E470 traffic to enter and exit the tollway for free from both directions. The master plan character area is intended to provide more intense retail, including large format retail, aka big box stores, and restaurant uses focused on serving both local and regional needs. Here you can see the 2 lots within planning area 1. Lot 1 is in teal. I hope that's dark enough. It's on the left side. And then lot 5 is in pink. And the zoning request revises that it would eliminate the provision precluding drive-throughs within the 300-foot radius of Parker Road and Pine Lane. So that lot that's in pink currently does not allow for a drive-through. You can have a drive-through on any other lot in that PD. It would also eliminate, as I spoke to before, the requirement on lot 5, the teal lot, be a minimum 17,000 square foot building. It would add the requirement that that minimum square footage be 10,000 square feet, as I spoke to earlier. It would amend the PD design standards to include those additional materials. The PD is located within the central commercial district of the master plan. This district encompasses the commercial core of the town. Due to its central location with access to Parker Road, Dransfeld Road, and 20 Mile Road and current land uses, growth in this character area should focus on core retail, services, offices, lodging, restaurants, entertainment, and to a lesser extent, higher density residential uses as part of a development with a mix of uses, and a design that focuses on vehicular and pedestrian connectivity between uses. The proposed amendment to the PD is consistent with the master plan. And that's the area in red on that slide. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning. These criteria ensure that a need exists, the proposal is consistent with the master plan, and there are adequate services to serve the proposed site. After evaluating the zoning information, staff has determined that the proposal meets the 9 criteria set forth in the land development ordinance as set forth in the staff report. And this is an older aerial photo that doesn't show all the existing development and construction undergoing right now. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan, and utility providers have confirmed capacity and availability, and all notice requirements have been satisfied. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the West Creek Plan Development Second Amendment. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also here.
Questions for Julie?
So Julia, you said that there are additional, or it's got its own design criteria. I'm assuming those are above, they're a step above the design criteria for the town of Parker, or were they laid out previously?
No, this is a more recent PD that was adopted in 2020. So it's in addition to with more specific material requirements, stone, a certain color, brick, color palette, requirements. So this adds two additional colors, the sandcastle and the bone china, and it also allows for stucco and a stone that aren't currently in those design standards.
Okay, thank you.
Julia, can you pull up the map again with the lots? I'm confused a little bit. So, if I heard you right, so the lot 1 is the larger lot, and lot 5 is to the west is the smaller lot. And did you say that this lot 5 could have a 17,000 square foot building on it, and lot 1 would have a 12,000 square foot building?
The square footage requirement was only applicable to Lot 5, which is the one in teal, and we're revising that the original PD required a minimum 17,000 square foot building on that lot. The request has been to reduce that minimum requirement down to 10,000 square feet. So the only lot that had the minimum requirement was the teal lot, Lot 5.
Okay, so what's the requirement for lot 1?
Lot 1 had a preclusion. It wasn't to Lot 1, it was a 300-foot radius from that intersection that you could not have a drive-through within that 300-foot radius.
Okay. So how does that affect parking spaces, or the number of required parking spaces for each lot?
So the number of parking spaces is going to be is based on the ultimate use of the development, whether it's retail that has a certain trigger, if it's a restaurant that has a certain trigger, and it's a ratio based on the square footage of the building. But what we do oftentimes ask for folks to do when they come in is to do a lot fit analysis based on a proposed building square footage. Our code has very onerous landscaping requirements for commercial development. We have a 15% landscaping requirement. That, coupled with our parking requirements, which are also pretty high, limit the square footage of a lot of buildings, or the kind of uses you can have, when you also take into account fire, access, turnaround radius, driveway aisle widths. And with these two remaining lots, looking at the requirements of the PD and the limitations, the development of these two lots with the standards in place as they are today would be incredibly difficult, if not infeasible.
Right, okay, all right, thank you.
So Julia, one other question. With these, if this goes through, are these kind of on a level playing field with the rest of the lots around it? And it's going to make it more consistent as to what can be done?
Yeah, it definitely, a lot of these lots are already under development or being developed, so looking at connection between the lots. For instance, that lot 5, which had the minimum square footage requirement for the retail building, the actual size of the lot coupled with the landscaping, the parking requirements wouldn't have allowed for that size of building. Okay. But this reallocation, allowing a drive-through on the bigger lot, the lot 1 to the east, and allowing a little bit of flexibility with the required square footage on lot 5, couples in with the rest of that development in the Parker and Pine area.
Did the applicant have a presentation, or just here?
No presentation, but I think they wanted to say hello.
Okay, well, please come forward. State your name and addresses for the record, please.
Good evening, Katie Sanchez, In-N-Out Burger, 13502 Hamburger Lane, Baldwin Park, California, 91762. Thank you for hearing our proposal tonight. We've been working with staff the last couple of years on this. We're super excited to be in the city of Parker. It's a beautiful town, and we've been waiting to get here, and this going through with this change is really going to help us develop a site that will give us room for our drive-through, and along with putting a beautiful building there, which is going to be reviewed as part of the site plan process. But we have been working with Julia and staff extensively on the building, and I would say one of a kind. There's some touches on there that we haven't done in other buildings. So I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Questions?
No, I do have another question, but it's probably more for Julia regarding the drive-through. And I think in our packet, it said it would be allowed 24, I guess, cars into the drive-through at one time as a max. But what if there's an overflow of more than that? How is that handled, and are they allowed to go onto these streets within the area, or are they allowed to back up onto Pine, or?
So they aren't, as part of the PD zoning and master traffic study was likely required that showed all the potential impact, all the use impacts, but with our site plan approval, they are required to submit another traffic impact analysis that our engineering department reviews, and all queuing has to be shown in that analysis to happen on site. The town doesn't allow for spilling over of queuing, so they'd have to show capacity for their drive-through lane and any additional capacity to keep it on their lot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So along those lines, I'm just, again, kind of curious. Let's face it, if In-N-Out comes here, you're going to have, I mean, look what happened at the first one, I think, in Centennial. You know, they had to have, I think they had police there, you know, making sure it will calm down. I have no doubt about that. But how does that get handled when something like this opens through the town?
So we do have our code enforcement if there are issues. What's important on this side is CDOT regulates ingress and egress off of Parker Road, so you don't have a direct ingress or egress to that particular lot off of a major thoroughfare, so they're going to be coming off of either Pine Drive and then coming to internal circulation within the PD. So if there was that kind of activity, I'm sure the management of In-N-Out would handle it, but that would be a question suited for In-N-Out's management of past restaurants.
Yeah, I think the first couple ones in Colorado were over the top for us. As we've opened a couple, I was at the Castle Rock opening. It wasn't as busy as the other ones. So we've had a couple more that have just slowed down as time has gone on. Colorado has definitely welcomed us with open arms. But as we have done with any new state and any, actually in the last couple openings, last couple of years we've done is gone over the top, spent sometimes hundreds and thousands of dollars on traffic mitigation, prepping. We hire our own off-site traffic officers to guide our customers, as well as having our team out in the parking lot. So we're definitely a well-oiled machine inside and outside of the restaurant.
Chair, may I add to that?
Sure.
So we actually ran into the town with Dutch Brothers when they opened. And so our engineering staff coordinated with the Dutch Brothers folks to come up with a plan in terms of how it was addressed. Again, private folks helping move traffic, other solutions. So the town has run into this before, and it's a coordinated effort between the town and the applicant to resolve that.
All right, thanks, Bryce. Any further questions?
No.
None from me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions?
I have a question for Julia, which is, what was the original intent of having the minimum square footage of within 300 feet of Parker Road?
There wasn't.
The minimum square footage requirement was for the lot to the west, so not within that 300 proximity. But I think the intent probably goes to some of your comments in the previous hearing, that we wanted to attract a broader base of higher end retail in a multi-tenant building. And we're still achieving that through the 10,000 square foot multi-tenant building, but with more feasible retail spaces, you know, between 2,500, 3,000 square feet, like a nail salon, those sort of things.
And I'm sorry, so it's actually the property on the east on the hard corner that's got the max or minimum requirement. So that's now switching and moving to the westerly property.
Okay, thanks, Bryce. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
Anything else? All right, as it is a public hearing, we'll open it to public comment. If you have a comment on this item, please step forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:44. Commissioner discussion.
I'm going to go along with the previous item we had, which is, I think this is a great place for that. It allows people to spend the night in Parker, spend a few days in Parker. It gives the town some revenue. It's right off of 470. This is where this kind of stuff goes, not right in the middle of, a lower density neighborhood. So I understand the reasons for all the changes. I'd love to see this area developed so it does have an entrance into Parker. I mean, Parker Road is a busy road, and so why not, if they're gonna come, let's build it and have some success from it. So, looks like a good plan.
I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioner, and have felt, we keep hearing back and forth different things going on, what's not happening. So I like that this is part of the growth. This is part of what you sign up for when you move here. And I knew that 10 years ago, and I'm definitely recommending that we move forward.
Yeah, I agree with Kim that this is probably the better place for this in and out, if that's what's going in there, and rather than in a residential, or closer to a residential area. And I think all the 9 criteria have been met, and I have no doubt that if there is a traffic issue, that the town will take care of it.
My comments are also similar to the previous application.
Okay. And I appreciate this getting moving. I appreciate the town, again, working with the property owners to amend this and, again, get those corners moving. And so do we have a motion?
Good, good.
Oh, I don't have it.
I move the planning commission recommend town council approve the zoning.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Rich, seconded by Ileana, that planning commission recommend town council approve the zoning. And I'll call the question. Kim?
Aye.
Ileana?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Chair is aye. It's approved 4-1. Thank you. Thank you, Julian. Bryce, any items from planning department?
No, sir, they're not.
Okay. Then do we have a move to adjourn?
I move we adjourn the meeting of January 26th, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved by Ileana, seconded by Rich, that we adjourn the meeting. Kim?
Aye.
Ileana?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Chair is aye. We are adjourned. Good night, all.
Good night.